I fell asleep during my library night shift. What the security cameras recorded wasn't me. The worst part isn't the nightmares. It's knowing they aren't really mine. I took the overnight gig at the city library because I needed the money for my art program. Simple as that. It paid better than flipping burgers, and the quiet was supposed to be good for sketching. A silent 10-hour shift surrounded by books. Sounded perfect. The first few weeks were exactly that. The evening rush would clear out by 9, the last of the students and the folks trying to stay warm would shuffle out. By midnight, the place was a tomb. Just me, the low electric hum of the lights overhead, and the distant sigh of traffic on the wet streets outside. The silence gets in your bones after a while. It's heavy. Around 2 a.m., the exhaustion would always hit me like a physical blow. That particular night, I was at the main circulation desk, trying to read, but the words were just swimming on the page. I let my head drop onto my arms just for a second. The dream came instantly. Not hazy and strange like a normal dream, but hyper-real, crystal clear. I was standing across the street from a new high-rise downtown. The kind with a rooftop restaurant all encased in glass, glowing like a lantern against the black sky. I'd always wanted to go there, but never had the cash. It was full of people. Silhouettes laughing, drinking, living lives I couldn't afford. Then the glass on the top floor didn't just break, it dissolved. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. No sound, no explosion, just a sudden gaping hole in the sky. The wind must have been incredible, because people started to get pulled out. They weren't jumping or panicking. They were just tumbling. End over end, stiff as statues, falling from that impossible height. I couldn't hear a single scream. It was like watching a movie with the sound cut. One after another they fell, their bodies hitting the pavement with a flat, final thud I felt in the soles of my feet. They didn't bounce or break apart, they just landed, rigid, and they started to pile up. A heap of limbs and torsos that grew and grew until it was a grotesque little mountain on the sidewalk. I tried to scream, to run, but my feet were bolted to the concrete. I could only watch. I snapped awake with a gasp, my own heart trying to punch its way out of my chest. My neck was on fire from the angle I'd been sleeping. The library was exactly as it was, silent, empty. The relief was so absolute it made me nauseous. Just a stress dream, I told myself, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. Just my brain being an asshole. I got up to walk it off, maybe sort the return cart to keep my hands busy. That's when I saw something in the biography section. It wasn't a shadow. It was shaped like a person, but it was all wrong. Too tall, for one. Its arms hung down almost to its knees, and it was bent over a bookshelf, like it was reading the spines. It moved with a twitchy, stuttering motion, like a corrupted video file. My blood went cold. It had to be a trick of the light, a product of my tired, fucked-up brain. I backed away slowly, my eyes locked on the spot. I ducked behind a circulation desk, my breath catching in my throat. I didn't want to see it again. I just wanted the sun to come up. I put my head down again, not to sleep, just to hide. But my body betrayed me. It wasn't sleep that came next. It was paralysis. I was awake. My eyes were open, but I couldn't move a single muscle. I was locked inside my own skull. And the thing from the biography section walked out into the main atrium. It wasn't a shadow. It was pale and slick, like something that lived in a cave deep underground. Its limbs were long and thin, jointed in too many places, and they bent at angles that were just wrong. As it shuffled closer, I saw it didn't have a face, just a smooth, blank expanse of skin, except for a mouth, a wide, lipless slit that curled up at the corners in a parody of a smile. It stopped right in front of the desk. It leaned over me, its long neck bending like a stalk. I could smell it. Ozone, like right after a lightning strike, and something else. Something like wet soil and rot. It just watched me with that featureless face, its smiling mouth stretching wider and wider. It opened that slit and a sound came out, not a scream. It was a low, wet, grinding noise. The sound of rocks churning in mud. My vision tunneled. Everything went black. The next thing I knew, pale morning light was filtering through the high-arched windows. 6 a.m., I was slumped in my chair, drool on my textbook. My whole body ached. It was over. 2 nightmares, one layered on top of the other. The product of caffeine, stress, and a shitty sleep schedule. I felt hollowed out, but I was okay. I packed my bag, clocked out, and headed for the main entrance. Miroslav, the morning security guard, was waiting by the door. He's this big old Polish guy who usually just grunts a hello. But today, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. His face was gray. "Oren," he said, his voice rough. "Come with me a minute." He didn't ask. He led me to the cramped security office in the basement and sat me in front of the bank of monitors. "I review the tapes every morning," he said, not looking at me. His hand was shaking as he moved the mouse. "What the hell were you doing last night?" I just stared at him, confused. He hit play. He spooled to about 3 a.m., right after I thought I'd woken up from the nightmare about the falling people. The camera's night vision showed me getting up from the desk. But I didn't sort books. I walked straight to the biography section, and I just stood there, for almost an hour, staring at a wall of books. Then, my head turned toward the security camera. It wasn't a fast, unnatural motion. It was slow, deliberate. My face, in the grainy black and white, was stretched in a smile of pure, ecstatic agony. My eyes were wide, and tears were streaming down my cheeks. My mouth was moving, but the mic didn't pick up the words. I felt the room tilt. I was asleep," I stammered. "I was having a nightmare. Sleepwalking." "I know," Miroslav said, his voice a whisper. "That's not the part that scared me." He rewound the tape. 2:15 a.m. The exact time I thought I was having the first dream. The one about the rooftop restaurant. On the screen, I wasn't sleeping. My body got up from the desk, moving with a calm, fluid purpose. It walked over to the children's section, opened a cabinet, and took out a big, brick-sized block of gray modeling clay. It brought it back to the desk. For 45 minutes, my hands moved. They pulled and pinched and smoothed the clay with a frantic, expert precision I don't possess when I'm awake. Miroslav slid a cardboard box across the desk toward me. My hands shook as I opened the lid. Inside was a sculpture. A perfect, disturbingly detailed model of the glass-walled restaurant. The shattered, missing panes of glass. And on the sidewalk below, a tiny, writhing mountain of twisted clay bodies. I've never worked another night shift. I threw the sculpture in a dumpster miles from my apartment, but I can't throw away the memory. Every morning, I wake up with a sick feeling in my stomach. I don't check the news anymore. I'm too afraid I'll see my sculpture in a photograph. But the real fear, the one that keeps me awake now, is what I saw before I threw it out. As I stared at that horrible little monument, I noticed a detail on one of the tiny figures, forever frozen in its long fall to the pavement. It had a tiny, perfectly sculpted messenger bag slung over its shoulder, the exact same one I carried to class every day.